Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, I want to talk about something that has been weighing heavily on me, and honestly, it makes me really uncomfortable. So, let's get into it. The grooming and inappropriate messaging that seems to be sneaking its way into children's television and children's media, especially on streaming services like Netflix. And I'm sure that you've heard about it by now already, and the boycott that's now happening, people canceling their subscriptions, people just calling them out outright and saying, hey, this is not okay. I don't want my child to be learning about this way. This is unfair, and this is taking away basically my right as a parent to understand what my child is consuming because they're sneaking it into there. Now, I want to start off by saying I support diversity, I support inclusion, and I fully believe that adults have the right to live authentically and to be respected for who they are, for who they love. That is not the debate here. The debate is about children. Children are not small adults. Okay? They're developing human beings who learn and are internalized far more than we often give them credit for. And when we expose them to adult themes too soon, we are stripping them of their innocence, their safety, and their right to grow at a natural pace. You guys look back and you say, man, I wish I didn't know this as a child. Man, I wish I didn't do this as a child. Well, that's because you're grieving a part of your childhood. I'm studying child development, and one of the most important things I've learned is this. Children consume everything. They might not be able to articulate it yet. They might not have the words to express themselves clearly, but their brains absorb, categorize, and internalize what they see and hear. Everything matters. Every show, every conversation, every story leaves an imprint. So when Netflix or any children's media company puts out a so-called family-friendly show that has hidden adult themes, it's not harmless. It's not just a joke or just progressive representation. It has an impact. And to me, it feels not only irresponsible but reprehensible. Think about this. You sit your child down in front of what you believe is a safe, family-oriented program. You trust the label kids and family. You trust the company to uphold basic standards of appropriateness. Then you suddenly find adult-level themes woven in, whether it's hypersexualized characters, subtle grooming undertones, or even complex social political issues, things like trans awareness or gender identity being introduced as casual topics. Now let me clarify. I'm not against trans awareness. I support the trans community, fully in their right to exist, thrive, and have spaces that honor them. But awareness and education are two different things. Children should not be learning about sex changes, and yes, the word sex is in there, through TV shows meant for them. That's not the job of a cartoon. It's not the job of a streaming company. That responsibility belongs to the parents. It's up to a mother, a father, a guardian to decide if and when a child is ready to learn about these topics and to explain it in a way that matches their values and the child's maturity level. We are not doing kids any favors by stripping parents of that role. What happens instead is that children get confused. They start to associate adult spaces and adult concepts with their everyday world. And when children feel like they're ready to go into those spaces too soon, it puts them at risk, like with Roblox. Just because Roblox is grooming children doesn't mean it's not a two-way street. The child is actively engaging with the predator because they think that it's safe. They think they can handle being in those spaces. That's where grooming comes in. Grooming is about breaking down a child's natural boundaries, normalizing things that should not be normal at their age, and making them vulnerable. This is dangerous. And I think we've gotten so caught up in progressive messaging and pushing boundaries that we've forgotten one very simple truth. Children deserve to be children. They deserve their innocence. I'll give a personal example. I grew up homeschooled and fairly sheltered. I didn't even realize that I had been speaking to a trans woman until I was 13 years old. And you know what? That was fine. I wasn't harmed by not knowing earlier. I wasn't robbed of my ability to respect people. If anything, I had the chance to grow at a healthy pace before I had to start asking bigger questions about the world. That's what childhood is supposed to be. Gradual learning, not force feeding. This is force feeding. This is shoving it down our kids' throats and expecting them to understand it and expecting them to be like, oh, mommy, but I want to be trans. Who? That's what childhood is supposed to be about, man. It's supposed to be about simple step-by-step learning, not subtle, secretive messaging. It feels predatory. It feels the sneaky way that you're sneaking this in. It feels like grooming. Now, some people will argue, well, kids need to see with the world as it is. Sure, but kids also need protection. We don't throw them into traffic and teach them road safety. We don't hand them car keys at age 5 because someday they'll drive. We guide them gradually through milestones that are age appropriate. Why should sexuality, gender identity, and adult relationships be any different? That's ridiculous. That's like saying you can get a tattoo at 17. No, you get a tattoo at 18. Do whatever you want. You're an adult now. You're legally an adult. Go do what you want with your body. Another part of this discussion that often gets overlooked is spaces. There are spaces for men, spaces for women, and spaces for children. And these spaces exist for a reason. Women's spaces exist because women are, in general, are physically smaller and more vulnerable to violence than men. Men's spaces exist because there are times men need privacy and camaraderie. And children's spaces exist because children need safety and freedom from adult influence. I believe trans individuals deserve their own safe spaces as well. I fully support that. But the key here is respect. Respecting spaces means not crossing boundaries, not forcing intermingling where it doesn't belong, and recognizing that some environments exist to protect vulnerable people. When children's shows start pushing adult conversations, those boundaries are being crossed. It's not okay. It never is okay. When any boundary is crossed, it's not okay. That's when you get triggered, right? So this is triggering me because this is a boundary that's very important. Let's also talk about double standards. We often hear that if a man makes advances on a woman who says no, it's harassment. And it is. But what about when a woman makes advances on a man who clearly says no? That's often dismissed, ignored, and even laughed off. Men don't have the same cultural protections when it comes to unwanted attention. And in children's programming, we see these double standards normalized. The pushy female character who keeps chasing the uninterested male. The joke about boys being boys. These may seem small, but they teach kids skewed messaging about consent, gender, and relationships. The result is confusion, and sometimes harm. So where does this leave us? I think it leaves us with a responsibility. A responsibility to determine and demand higher standards from companies like Netflix, Disney, and other shows who profit from family and children's programming. Because this is the thing. Disney changed a whole show about trans awareness because money was at stake. They don't care about these things for real. At a switch of a hat, at a drop of a hat, if you say trans people are disgusting, everybody unanimously agrees, then they'll stop it because the first thing that a business needs is money and profit. And if you're not going to give that to them, they'll go and pander somewhere else. We need accountability. This is not about sheltering kids forever, but about guiding them step by step into maturity without ripping away their innocence before it's time. We need parents to be aware, to preview shows, to ask questions, and to push back against this quiet infiltration of adult themes into children's media. And we need companies to respect the spaces they claim to create. If you say a program is for children, then make it truly for children. Because when we blur those lines, we're not being progressive, we're being careless, and children, the most vulnerable group in our society, are the ones paying the price. So that's what was on my heart today. It's not an easy conversation, but it is a necessary one. Protecting children isn't about politics, left versus right, or even about one specific group. It's about recognizing that there are boundaries and that those boundaries exist for a reason. It's about putting children first before agendas, before profits, before everything else. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this thought-provoking, please share it. If you enjoyed my commentary, please share it. Let's keep having these conversations because the more we talk about it, the more we can hold people accountable, the more we can protect children, the most vulnerable group in our society. They say women and children first for a reason, okay? And that's all. Good night.